What is up, you guys? Chet Guthrie, the Dream Poet here, coming to you all with another fascinating people and extraordinary story podcast. Yes, I had to say stories instead of story. My apologies. Anyway, you guys, I know these podcast interviews have been kind of hard to keep up with last couple of months, but I have found a very interesting group of people, and in fact, it goes all the way back to my days in college. You see, if you've ever experienced college, you've probably seen some of these people that work with bats, or work with manatees, or work with alligators, or in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, black bears. And you often must wonder, how do you wind up with such a job? I can tell you three things. One, a passion, a dream. Two, a possible degree in natural resources. And the third, a possible membership with the Wildlife Society. The Wildlife Society is a national organization that focuses on the conservation of wildlife species. But within this organization, there are collegiate groups. Some of these major universities, like for the one I have tonight, the University of Florida. Anyway, it goes on through different universities. But anyway, I thought I would bring on Maria Vilches.
Vilches. Yep. Vilches.
Vilches, just make sure I pronounce that name correctly. Anyway, she is the president of the University of Florida Wildlife Society, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. 1 second, and there we go. How you doing, Maria?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Wildlife Society? I know it's been a few years for me.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, as you mentioned, the Wildlife Society is a national organization, and it breaks down even furthermore into local chapters. So there we have the state chapter, which is Florida, and then us we're like the local student group chapter. So a lot of what we do is we work with students and put on workshops and events, and have speakers come and professionals from the field of wildlife to essentially amplify, the work that our members are going to go on to do in the future, and just get them excited and get them the skills that they otherwise would not have the opportunity to. And we're also very open to other majors as well. Some of our members are from engineering or art. So yeah, it's really cool just to get people more involved outside and be passionate and see the light in their eyes when they handle wildlife or are around just a bunch of people who share a common interest.
No, I mean, I guess how does your like how do, what's your background in wildlife? What is the genesis of your interest within this field of work?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. It's a very concrete, fast-paced jungle there. So I didn't necessarily grow up in the outdoors. A lot of what I did as a kid was, go out to my front yard and look for some lizards. And, my family always thought I was kind of weird. They're like, this kid,
Yep.
But when I was in high school, I got the opportunity to go to a magnet program, and my teacher there my junior year would take us to a lot of field trips, and one of those field trips was to go shark tagging with the University of Miami. And it was the coolest thing ever, and it just kind of solidified the fact that I wanted to do research and be out in the field. So I got to do this internship while I was a senior in high school, working at Florida International University in a coastal fisheries ecology lab, and got to go out work in the Everglades. We did a lot of snook work, tracking their movement and how they move, throughout the coastal Everglades, and also did a lot of work on like Jack Crevalle. So trying to put their species to the forefront of better management efforts, and work a lot with like stakeholders and that kind of stuff. And UF was the only place that offered a wildlife ecology and conservation major, so my passion led me there. And I switched over to natural resource conservation because, the wildlife track doesn't necessarily focus on fisheries a lot. And so that's exactly what I wanted to do. And natural resource gave me the opportunity to take those fisheries classes. So yeah, that's kind of the genesis of my story.
That is fascinating. I mean, that's one of the things that I wish for me, actually, of all things, talk about the irony. Well, I started out with my forestry major over at Cleveland State Community College because, well, Cleveland, Tennessee is my hometown. And
Mhm.
of course, that's where the most recent conclave was held.
Yes, it
I
was.
mean, like, when I first heard about that, I was like, is that community college suited for that? Because when when I was in the Wildlife Society with the University of Tennessee, I mean, you're talking like 24, 25, sometimes 30 schools that
Mhm.
are going to be. And I mean, well, just my memories is it's like if it can get crazy.
Yeah, it's literally the wildlife Olympics, but you have a bunch of so many schools that have the same passions, and they're running around and trying to do their own individual like competitions, whether that be like identifying trees or just yeah, it's fun.
All right, now that we've kind of talked a little bit about that, I'll show that first, going through the slides.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I figured, I think you're probably best suited to talk about this wonderful group of people right here.
Yeah. So that picture is from our Beast Feast last year. And Beast Feast, for those that don't know, every wildlife society has an annual fundraiser, and it's usually Beast Feast. And what it does, it's a wild game dinner. And so in Florida, the way that we do it is, we not only have wild game meats, but we also have exotic, invasive meats. We bring in, pythons, iguanas. We recently got snakehead on our last Beast Feast. It was just super successful.
Really?
Yeah. And, we work with, like professionals in the field, like with FWC and one of our vice presidents. He has a really good connection with like Bros Branch, and they were able to get us a lot of the meats provided for our Beast Feast. But yeah, it's this fun way that we engage the community to come out, to a local brewery and also have, and try meats that they wouldn't have otherwise, gotten the chance to if they didn't go to Beast Feast. And it's a super successful event, and our members, like, all of them, all hands in all the time, working super hard the entire night to make sure that everyone's happy. And we also have a lot of like outreach opportunities there with like local conservation groups like the Alachua Trust Conservation Fund. Um, and yeah, it's just a super fun night. And getting people engaged in the community, I think, is really one of the biggest takeaways from this. And of course, us raising money to send people to Conclave. But yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's the big one because, I remember, I think this was back in 2015 when it was held at Virginia Tech. I think it was like 120, I think 120, 100. I mean, like some of these places, it can get kind of expensive.
Mhm.
Like my last conclave, gosh, that makes me sound old. My last conclave was at LSU in Baton Rouge, and I remember. I mean, it's just like, shucks, what was I trying to say? I lost my train of thought.
It's
I mean, it's
expensive.
like,
Yeah.
because that's all the way down in Louisiana. I mean, you're
Mhm.
talking about like for some of these schools, like, gosh, I mean, I think I did my research one time. It's like from like Jacksonville, Florida to like Baton Rouge was like 7.5 hours. Like, and I know from Jacksonville to Gainesville is like already another hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I don't even think Frostburg went to that one, but gosh. Oh, and by the way, as we were talking about the Beast Feast and fundraisers, I brought up a few photos here. This was
Mhm.
actually from the one that I helped with back in 2020, just to give people an idea. Some of the pictures and what it looks like. By the way, there's me when I was less fat. But anyway, I mean, as you were saying about Python, that's one of the things that I remember because that was the first time I ever had Python. But
Yeah.
actually, I'm curious, what does snakehead taste like? Like I'm absolutely curious.
Yeah, so I unfortunately am allergic to all seafood and all kind of fish thingies related, which stinks because I love working with fish. But I heard that the snakehead was really great, and the way that our chef this year, so Valerie Clonch. She's from California. Her sister is associated with, our faculty advisors lab. And so we flew her out to cook these specialty dishes. And I think she made snakehead crab cakes. And they were such a hit. Everyone absolutely loved it. And I think there was enough that I think everyone should have tried it. But yeah, I heard they were great.
Because I was going to say, I mean, well, by the way, if for those watching this podcast interview, snakehead, it is a type of fish. It is what we call an invasive species, and it has inhabited mostly southern waters. It's a very aggressive fish, and how it got into the the population is correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, but it was like you had a lot of these Asian weddings, like China. What one of their traditions is, they would release two snakeheads. Now, those fish, they are aggressive. They're mean, and if you're
Mhm.
not careful, they can breathe, and they get big too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not necessarily sure about, their invasion pathway, but definitely having to do with people, probably like a pet that they had in an aquarium or, yeah, religious reasons and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of, yeah, interesting ways in which these invasive species can become, loose and into Florida.
Well, I mean, speaking of Florida, I mean, well, as we're talking about this, have you been down to? I imagine you have Silver Springs. You know,
I have not yet, no.
okay. When if you all get a chance, get a small group from
Mhm.
the chapter, take a small kayaking trip. It will blow your mind. But why I say that is there is a invasive population of rhesus monkeys that are out there. Like no joke.
Yeah, I've
Are you,
heard. Yeah.
I mean, it's like they have a big sign that says, don't get anywhere near them because it's
Hmm.
like their poop contains like I think it was like herpes or something like that, and it's like, oh my god, it's a month. So, but anyway, but yeah, I mean, Florida has. I mean, that's one of the things that I learned when I moved to Florida.
Hmm.
Like one of the things that I learned about is I think it's on like the Tampa side, but the or maybe more South Florida. But you have the giant snails.
Oh yeah, the apple snails, I think.
Yeah,
Or the snail
they get
kites.
really big. And
Hmm.
anyway, that's just like, oh, Florida is such a great place.
Yeah, but it's insane because that's like one of the examples thinking about how invasive species can actually help a native species bounce back. With the Florida snail kite. Um, yeah, I mean, hearing some of those studies or some of the graduate students that do work on that, it's interesting to hear their perspectives.
And that's. But speaking about kind of going back to that, I'll bring out some of the photos, just some of the
Mhm.
things of what you guys do. Like one of the okay, this is what I remember hearing from 2016 when I was on a workshop out. It was the Mississippi State conclave that they held. But one of the things that I heard, I believe her name was Sarah, but she talked about like how y'all get to work with manatees. Like and that is what has fascinated me so much about the UF chapter is y'all get to work with the floaty potatoes.
Yeah, some of our members are super involved with the vet school, and so they go out and do marine mammal rescues, and so they respond to that. We recently held our marine mammal workshop where we had two representatives from the vet school in that team come out and show us how they rescue manatees. So they brought these big floaties and like of a manatee and a dolphin, and they showed us the whole process of what it's like. Obviously, they're not, it's simulation, so we're simulating what it would be like. But yeah, and then usually that opportunity leads to like, having the students not necessarily a raffle, but put their names, like for a bid and essentially saying like, okay, these are the people that are going to go out in our next rescue or potential, field outing and that kind of stuff. So that's the whole like origin of that, working with manatees.
I mean, it's like so. I guess just kind of curious a little bit more. Like, I guess what are some of the other things that y'all have done volunteer wise? I know Do y'all work any with the bats and the? I think it's the Bat Barn that's on UF's campus.
So we're currently not doing work with like the campus, and as a club, it's kind of hard to do a lot of like the volunteer things. But I know last year there was a lot of like cleanups around campus, which a lot of them would just turn into casual like herp walks, catching snakes or looking for frogs and that kind of stuff. Um, Everyone, I think individually, every member, they do their own thing, and so they bring it up in conversations that we have whenever we're meeting, and then that's usually how people get more involved. So there's a lot of people that do a lot of like volunteering with like the bird banding lab that we have in Gainesville, and people do volunteer with like Luby Bats, which is an organization local to the Gainesville area as well, where people get to work with them. And even, working, for like the Santa Fe Zoo, a lot of it is just mainly like outreach as well, working with like kids, going out to events for the public and exposing them to that kind of stuff. So that's mostly what the volunteering aspect for the Wildlife Society looks like.
Hmm, that's interesting. 'Cause I know, well, a lot of my experience, of course, as you have seen, I mean, it was mostly UT, but I mean, we did a lot of stuff. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think some of the things that I remember we used to do. Oh gosh, it was a cedar glade. What we would do is we would go out to the a lot of these cedars, like little cedars, and what we would do
Mm-hmm.
is we would spray down the weeds and the invasives with gosh, I don't think it was Roundup, but I know it was some type of gosh, I wish I could remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, and here in Gainesville, we had they call it the Invader Rally, where they just gather a bunch of people and take them to all these places where they can, catch, not catch, but like, pull out all the invasive plants and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And it's all throughout Gainesville.
I mean, that's pretty. By the way, I love Gainesville. I mean,
Yeah.
like when I like, I mean, it's just like probably one of my favorite things is. I mean, well, first off, I'm a huge music nut. You know, you know, Tom Petty. There we go.
Hmm.
Almost forgot his name. Can't. That's blasphemy. You know, Tom Petty. His childhood home is in Gainesville, and it's like, I mean, you got that. You know, but all the springs. I
Hmm.
mean, all of it, is like within like 30 minutes away from each other in Gainesville. That's what I love about it. Like the Devil's oh, what is it? The
Yeah, Mill Hopper, Devil's Mill Hopper. Yeah, it's
or
a
Devil's
sinkhole. Yeah.
or the Devil's Den. Devil's oh my god, Devil's Den. It's this big giant crater that was formed by limestone.
Hmm.
Anyway, sorry,
No,
I'm
yeah,
having a
it's
moment.
exciting. It's an
I mean,
exciting
it's like
town. Hmm.
I mean, if I hadn't had a few medical issues, I probably would have stayed in Florida. But
Hmm.
anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, this is one of the things that I found fascinating. I believe, I mean, because I know that it's not through the Wildlife Society, but it's through these other organizations that that chapters like UF's chapter, will show to people. I know there is a Belize trip that
Yeah.
is absolutely fascinating if you can get on with that, or the South African one. That's actually
Hmm.
some of the. I mean, I mean, would you care telling us a little bit about how that one works, the African trip, and just some of the species that students like you get to work with?
Yeah. So those are usually. Sorry, I thought I was hearing owls outside. But usually, professors in the Wildlife Ecology and Conservation Department, a lot of them do international work, and so we obviously have world class renowned professors here that do work, in places such as Africa and in the Caribbean and all that kind of fun places. So I think Bob McCleary, he's the main guy, and he organizes the trip along with other professors and other departments that do similar work as well. And so they gather a group of students, and they usually recruit from, you know, our chapter and of course from the department to take some of those students, out to these places and do field work with them. And there they get to develop like their own individual research projects if that's something that they're interested in doing. But yeah, that's a little bit about how that works. And I know there's also trips to like the Galapagos as well, which I know some of my closest friends, were able to do. And they absolutely still to this day talk about, the amazing time they had there, where they also get to take classes at the local university as well, kind of like an exchange program. So those are some of the different opportunities there.
That is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I was a forestry major. Well, dual forestry. Like I was a forestry major, but also had my journalism degree. I mean, when I was at UT, I kind of like I was like, you know what, forestry. I mean, some of their classes will kick my butt, but the journalism side is actually, I mean, it's what kept me sane up until. I mean, I'm going to keep that off the record, but it's probably why. I mean, and plus, I mean, my chapter, I just wasn't happy there, but I don't know. But anyway, now that we've kind of talked a little bit about this,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I like, it goes back to the wild game dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, can you tell us about how the silent auction works a little bit?
Yeah.
Like
So
Sierra,
yeah, that is, yep, that's Sierra right there. So the silent auction, we usually reach out to people, local artists, or anyone who has like weird, cool oddities, to donate. And we go also and we do our Beast Feast extravaganza where we go around town into local shops and, places and ask for, donations for our silent auction. And a lot of the time we get a lot of cool art pieces, whether that be like watercolor or, sculptures, just those kind of things. And some of them go for a lot of money. I know recently a PhD student in the biology department, Arik Hartman, he made the most beautiful watercolor. I want to say it was a macrochile, so like a snapping turtle, like drawing, and
really?
it probably went for like a little bit over $500. It was amazing. The detail on that was just incredible. So shout out to Arik. But yeah, it was insane, the amount of talent that, especially students and the graduate students as well that do this, sometimes, for a living, the fact that they're just working this hard to make it help us, make it happen, and dedicating their time and skills to, I mean, it's just incredible. There's a lot of talent as well in our members who are like super into art. So some of them will also donate some of their paintings or drawings and that kind of thing.
Because I was gonna. Speaking of that, I mean, $500.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
Mhm.
impressive.
Yeah,
But
it was yeah.
I mean, I guess why I say that is, Sierra. I mean, when I met her back in 2020, um, I mean, like she had like these watercolor paintings that
Mhm.
I think like maybe took her like 20 minutes, and I'm like, God, how
Yeah.
did you do that?
Sierra's incredible at, she's just a fantastic artist, and a lot of her stickers actually she designed that sell pretty well as well. And our like new shirts, like we have a Scrub J shirt, and we also like for Halloween made like Halloween bat stickers, and so they all sell pretty well. Like Sierra is just amazing. She's really great and talented, and yeah.
Wait, so has she graduated yet, or
Yeah, Sierra graduated. She's, I think, now working with Legs Ranch, but she's in Gainesville at the moment, as far as I know. But yeah, she was our chapter president about 2 years ago, and yeah, and she was wonderful.
I remember that. I remember
Mm-hmm.
how, or I remember when she got elected because I remember when I helped out a little bit.
Yeah.
Adrian Dotery, super
Mm-hmm.
nice person. I'm trying to remember oh yeah, Sarah Tinment.
Yeah.
That's gonna, anyway, super nice people. I wish
Mm-hmm.
I'd had the opportunity to work with them longer, but 2020
Yeah,
happened.
that group was like so incredible. I think that was the main reason why I got involved in the Wildlife Society, just to see them and see how much they've succeeded. I don't know, they kind of created this family atmosphere, and that's kind of like, it was just a warm, like anytime you stepped foot into New and Ziegler, 112 for like a meeting, they just made this place warm and feel like, wow, we could literally, take on the world and do a bunch of cool wildlife things. And yeah.
I remember that. That was I remember that environment. It was
Mm-hmm.
nice. I mean, because that's kind of what, because as I had mentioned, what had happened with, you know, after, well, walking,
Mm-hmm.
and it just led to a lot of things that I had known what was going on behind closed doors. And when that happened, I was like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with wildlife or forestry. Y'all can have it. But that chat, like, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but when I met your group, I mean, it reignited that passion in me, and I think maybe that's why I guess maybe I'm a little more closer, why I want to help this chapter out more than my own alma mater is
Mm-hmm.
because of that reason. You all embody what wildlife and conservation should be, because we are a family and a community,
Yeah.
not, well, forgive me for some people that might get mad at this, but a group of rednecks that only care about being a game warden. There, I said it. But anyway, we'll since we're talking about this, we will talk about the biggie,
Yeah.
um, and I'll let you talk about what
Mhm.
conclave is in more finer detail.
Yeah, and first, I just want to say thank you so much for grabbing some of those photos. It totally slipped my mind. I was like, wait a minute, I need to send pictures. I
Oh,
totally
it's all
appreciate
right. I
you.
was like, maybe I should get some. I mean, because
Um,
that's what makes like these podcast interviews so much fun, is because I might see a picture, but I don't know the story behind it. And like when you
mhm.
hear what's going on at the time, it's just like, you know what? That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary at the time, but it was funny.
Mhm.
Okay. But
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that picture we're seeing there, that's our group from this year from our past conclave. It was held in Cleveland, Tennessee. It was a very interesting trip because it was literally super cold, and so we have all these Floridians that have not, experienced weather below like 50 degrees or 40 even.
mhm.
It was freezing, and it was also like raining for the most part. So a lot of us for competition day. Well, I guess I should start with what is conclave. Conclave is basically the Wildlife Olympics, and so I think every division within the Wildlife Society. So we're the Southeastern Conclave. All the Southeastern schools get together at one place, and they essentially compete for who's the best wildlife chapter, in this region. And so every year, we participate in that, and it's just fun because it's not only like a competition where we go and we compete, but it's also a great opportunity to network. And there's field trips and workshops that they allow us to do and participate in, that gets us those skills that we, again, like otherwise would not have, and especially in a different place, in a different setting. But yeah, that picture right there, we took home a second place in wildlife photography. We didn't, steal any of the big awards and that kind of stuff, but it was, very uh, just a good time to be around other schools as well. And then our group is just so special. We had a lot of fun even in our Airbnbs, like playing card games. Whenever we'd come back, and then some of us would split up and look for salamanders, which we did a lot of. We looked for a lot of salamanders at night. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Last year was super fun in North Carolina. It was the first year of us coming back after COVID, because our conclave, didn't happen in 2020, and I don't think it happened in 2021. And we didn't even prepare for like our conclave at all. We just kind of went in at that point. No one had ever gone to a conclave before. And usually the way it works is that, there's always somebody or like a couple of group of people that have gone to conclave, so they know what to expect. So we didn't prepare anything at all last year, and we ended up having like, first place in radio telemetry, which that was just insane
Really?
because Um, Literally, it was me and Spencer, one of our vice presidents. We had no idea what to do. We were even struggling to open up the antenna. They just gave us the antennas and we're like, all right, go find the coordinates or the points or whatever. Um, and so we were just there struggling, and all the schools were kind of just staring at us. And I was like, okay, I think we should start, move in. And we're there trying to struggle, open the antenna up. And so we did, and we tried triangulating and doing all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, I remember like writing down the coordinates, and at some point when we thought we were done, the coordinates were all the same. And I was like, oh no, like I don't think this is right. Like, why are the coordinates all the same? And so last minute I changed the last digit of the coordinates to like 1, 2, and 3. It was just so random. And then when we're sitting at, when they announced the winners, Spencer was jokingly telling, Dr. J, Dr. Steve Johnson, he came with us on that trip, because Dr. Johnson was just like, there's no way you guys are going to win. But he kept whispering, like, it's going to be us. Watch. They're going to say first place in Florida. And they said Florida. And we were like, no way. So that was like one of the most insane, like, things that have ever happened. Like, Spencer and I were just like, what just happened? Like, we literally like went in there, didn't know what we were doing.
I mean, that's crazy. Like, I mean, talk about, oh my gosh.
Yeah. We just guessed right numbers, I guess.
Oh my. Okay, then.
Yeah. It's funny too, because there's an app called Yik Yak, and so all the other schools were like writing on it, and they're like, "There's no way Florida got this," like just saying like, "Wow." And Spencer was joking around with people too, saying like that we do that here at the Gator Nation. Our football players, we like stick receivers to the footballs and then go find them.
Yep. Actually, speaking of this year's conclave, who took top 3?
I think it was Mississippi State was one of them, Murray, and then Georgia.
Oh, Georgia!
Yeah,
always.
Yeah. We're trying to beat Georgia at Quiz Bowl, but they're just so quick. It's literally the person asking a question like 2 words in, and they just already know the answer. And we're kind of like, oh my gosh, like we didn't even. But yeah.
Oh, I mean, you know how they do it. I mean, it's not that they cheat, but it's like they they have a class that they dedicate towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's oh my goodness.
So next year, I think our group is really rallied up. Like they really want to beat Georgia at Quiz Bowl. So they're excited to start already like seeking out members who want to accomplish that goal too, and start studying away. Whether that be on taxonomy or like ecological functions and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the only way. I mean, because it's like because like I said, I mean, the only instance that I ever remember Georgia losing, period, was, again, I feel like I sound like an old man or a veteran from Conclave. It's like 2015 was the year that UT beat the living tar out of Georgia. Like, I kid you not. That was the one year that University of Tennessee, Knoxville beat Georgia, and I mean they were mad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would say another word, but I'm keeping this conversation clean. They were mad, but I mean, Georgia. I had a few good friends that were from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard from them in a while. But speaking of people, what's her name? Nicole Beaver, Natalie.
Yeah, Natalie. Yeah.
I mean, I remember, of course, I follow University of Florida's, UF. Sorry, it's late. Anyway, the UF Wildlife Society's Instagram, and I'd seen that I think she was an officer the year before, I believe. I think. But I guess either way, I mean, I just remember that she's a photographer, and I mean, a lot lot of good stuff. A lot of, again, another lot of really good art. A lot of
We definitely dominate in that area, and we tend to at our conclaves. We just have so much, artistic talent in our club. It's just insane, in photography as well. Last year I think we won first place in field photography, as and it was literally one of our members just flipped a log, found a salamander, and posted on there and just got it, and it was great.
Yep, that is okay. That's what we used to say back in, like, when I was in or when I went to my conclaves. All you got to do is, if you're the one that finds the salamander, you
Mhm.
won. You
Yeah.
got this. Go home and take it. But I think let me see. All right, and there's just some more pictures of.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious about this one. What's going on? Oh, the one on the.
Yeah, so that's Jesus. So Jesus did a fantastic job. He was our conclave coordinator this year, and so they had us do a bunch of field trips, and one of them was to the Tennessee Aquarium in Chattanooga, I believe. So a group ended up going there, and they ended up just learning how to identify fish, basically like a ichthyology course, super fast one, kind of just to get them more interested in that. And I ended up going on a really fun hatchery tour with like the Tennessee Department of Natural Resources, and getting to see the way that they spawn their walleye. That was just incredible to see, hands on, like these people getting to see the strategy. They literally have this huge fish and they wrap it around a towel, dry it up, and then, they squeeze the eggs out. They put it in a solution and they use turkey feathers, because apparently the turkey feathers are the best. They're very soft, so they won't disrupt the egg or anything like that. And then they put them in these super cool containers that filter out, and then eventually, they end up becoming a little walleye fry, and it's really cute.
That is interesting.
Yeah, but that's just Jesus having a fun time with some fish.
I was gonna say, like, when I was looking for photos to make for this interview, I was like, what what is he doing? Oh
Yeah.
wait, it's wildlife people. Never mind.
Yeah.
But actually, so wait, what other workshops did they have, like the Tennessee Aquarium? Because I'm
Hmm.
sorry, I love the Tennessee Aquarium. I love it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Other workshops they had, I believe they probably had one, I think Natalie and went to one about learning how to use a shotgun or something like that. So they took him out to ranges and learn how to hold firearms and use them for that kind of thing. And then what other workshops they had? They really always have a bunch. They have one to a memorial site, and then another one to necropsy. I remember that. I think two of our members actually came back with I think they're called pelts. When a bunch of mammals that they ended up necropsying, and so they ended up learning a lot about that and the whole process. But yeah, those were some of the workshops they had this year.
I mean, because I was kind of curious, because like I said, we had talked about earlier. I mean, when I first heard that Cleveland State was going to do it, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I knew Brewer, well, again, former advisor as well. But Brewer, I mean, I was like, I think he's kind of got a little bit too much on his hands, because if y'all notice, Cleveland State is a small campus,
Yeah.
a very small campus. But that's just awesome that they were able to do that. Did they do did they do field photography? Like field photography, like send you out with a camera?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you know where they took y'all out to, or where?
I'm not sure. I feel like a lot of the competitions were in house, and I think only a few they had to drive out to do. Um, but I actually think the photography one was in house, and I don't remember, but it was this gym area, and then it was behind that gym area where they took the photography people um,
Hmm.
out to. But yeah, no, it was great. I think we had a lot of fun doing the team field obstacle course, where basically we got to go to do different stations. There was one where we had to like light a fire just with like basic tools that we had. There was one, like they used I think it was for like first aid, safety training kind of thing. And they used a real person. So we got to this station and there was a real person like shaking and it was like cold and raining. And luckily for us, we had two people who were like first aid, like certified. So we got through that competition and did super well. But yeah, and then the other ones were just running around campus, like identifying species, which a lot of our members are super good at. And I think one of my favorite ones that stands out is that they made you set up a rod and reel and with like a hook, and so then cast your bait to a bucket. I don't know. I found that really fun. Getting to see your group trying to tie knots and that kind of thing, and then actually, casting it out to the bucket. But yeah.
It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. Well, I mean, I know. Actually, there was a friend of mine. Um, she was. Let me see. Actually, she was in or she went to Cleveland State with me, and then I know she went to Tennessee Tech. I know this year she took a step back from the Wildlife Society, but I remember she was really good at fly casting. Oh, Rebecca Champion. Um, well, anyway, I'm trying to remember. There was something else I was going to talk about, but hmm, trying to remember. Oh, by the way, did Sierra did she create this one? Uh,
I'm not quite sure. I know she created the more modern logo that sometimes we use with the like, actual green gator that's like says student chapter on it. Yeah, I'm not sure about that specific logo. I'm not sure who designed it. Um, yeah, it could have been one of the many again past RTs like Izzy Garcia or um, I don't know Iona Hennessy. I'm not sure, but
oh goodness. But actually, so where's next year's conclave going to be held at?
next year is going to be hosted at Murray, and then I think we hosted in 2026. So
Really? So y'all are okay. This is what y'all need to do. You all need to like. Well, I guess I wouldn't say it's wild. Well, no. I was going to say something. Well, because I know Florida is Florida, and
yeah.
Florida also has Florida Man
Hmm.
in the St. Johns River, which is absolutely disgusting. But I mean, because why say that? It's like, I mean, I'd watch kids like swim in it, but it's like the St. Johns River. It also has the brain-eating amoeba, and it's
Hmm.
like, you mean to tell me these kids that are jumping around and playing in it? Well, even though it's rare for it's rare for that infection to take place anyway, but it's like I cringe. And the manatees they swim in that, and I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
no. But anyway, is there anything else I might be missing that you'd like to talk about for the University of Florida's Wildlife Society?
We're a very fun group of people. I can't stress that enough. It's really just super fun to have this place to come to at the end of the day and just get together with people who are so excited about doing their own research or volunteering somewhere, and even setting up socials outside of that to look for, whether that be birding or, going out looking for snakes and stuff. Um, People are just great. I don't know how to explain it. It's the community is definitely my favorite part about the Wildlife Society, and yeah.
And I agree too. I mean, because like I said, I mean, it's as long as you keep that camaraderie going,
Mhm.
camaraderie, the teamwork, the family, it goes a long way. I mean, like I said, I mean, Well, like I said, I mean, I keep a lot of stuff that has gone on with me and UT wildlife or UT's. I don't know. Like I said, I'll just keep that off the
Mhm.
record, just because this has been a very positive and a very fun conversation. Um, I do understand elections are taking place right now, like or
Yep.
about to take place. Like,
Yeah,
I guess, what are you thinking about how that's going to turn out?
I think we have a great group of people running to be officers next year, and I think the chapter is going to be in great hands. I'm excited to see the kind of work that they're going to produce. I think every year, everyone has like a different method or not method, but a goal to accomplish. And I think for me, my goal was to accomplish more collaboration work, and I feel like we sort of did that and embodied that a little bit in everything that we tried to do. We tried to get other clubs more involved, or people from outside of our club. I think just bringing exposure to people, that was the main goal. And I think the main thing that drives us as officers is to bring exposure to our members of things that they just would not have a good handle on. A lot of the times, we introduce them to experiences that they've never had before. They come from urban areas. They've never gone, held a pair of binoculars. And, when we are able to host those kind of events, it's fun. Or even just looking for frogs to see people get super excited about that. It's always just so fun. But yeah.
Well, speaking of herps and stuff, like, have y'all ever come across a? They're protected in the state of Florida, and if you touch one,
An
you're going to
indigo?
jail. Gopher tortoise. There we go.
Gopher. So yeah, I think we've had not as a club, but through the wildlife courses, wildlife techniques out at Ordway, which is in Melrose. It's one of the properties that UF owns, and the wildlife department uses to uh, take their wildlife techniques classes out there to teach them different ways, to sample out in the field. And one of the main activities that they do is look for gopher tortoise burrows and put I want to say there's Sherman traps to look for mammals to see if there's mammals coming in and out, like who uses those like gopher tortoise burrows and that kind of thing. So yeah, there have been some spottings.
Yes, I mean, because I was gonna say when I lived in when I lived in Jacksonville, not far from the marina where my sailboat was at, I did happen to stumble across a gopher tortoise burrow,
Mhm.
and of all things, he was there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, almost like clockwork. Like, I mean, I would walk the path, the trail. It was Mandarin Park, and like almost like every single time I would see him, he'd be sitting in his burrow. He'd be looking at me. I'd get about 10 feet away. He would turn around and he would start doing like the little arm things that all the
Hmm.
turtles do, and then he would think that I didn't see him. And I mean, I just remember it's like I think that's one of the things that I remember when I was in the Wildlife Society. It's like, gopher tortoises are protected
Yeah.
species, and it's like I think there was like one. I think there was like one instance. I think this was like a case that happened in the early 2000s, but it's like a lady had discovered a gopher tortoise had dug under her house, and she went to the state. Well, I don't think it was the state. I think it was the community, or oh, what is it? Local law enforcement,
Hmm.
and they told her, "You have to move your house." You know, just because they're that much of a keystone species.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, typically I keep these conversations to about an hour,
Hmm.
but I think this has already been a great conversation. Thank you, Maria, for coming on. I
Yeah.
mean, I take it since it's hell that's what we used to call it, hell season, because you want to cry and die inside. I I mean, it's like I took silviculture. No, no, it's anything with like the mathematics side of wildlife or forestry, no, you can have it. But anyway, thank you for coming on, Maria. Really
Yeah,
do
thank you.
appreciate
Thanks for having
this.
me on. I appreciate
Oh
it, Chet.
no, no problem. Like I said, you for future people that come into the Wildlife Society, they can use this as a cross reference. Like I said, you guys are a very welcoming group of people. And like I said, I think that's why I tend to lean more towards you guys. But anyway, we are going to close this out. Anyway, guys, thank you all for coming on to, or thank you all for watching this wonderful interview tonight. Remember, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Always means a lot. Goes to show that you all care and that you all want to see more awesome videos. Peace out, you guys.